Next up is Geoffrey Gatza. He's also the publisher, and you're the founder of BlazeVOX Books.
Indeed.
So you're one of my heroes. You can do it all, right? Write poetry, edit, publish. What do you do? Take the books out and hand them out also to the bookstores? Anyway, I'm glad you're here, Geoffrey. I'm glad that BlazeVOX is doing this program with us, and welcome. And perhaps you'll have an opportunity to come back at some point in the future as well.
That would be very nice.
So, quote, "It's the way things change that brings the myth to Kenmore, the poet's hometown. This collection of poems is one work divided, blending two stories, the story of Gwion and the wisdom potion, and the apocryphal apocalyptic text, the Book of Enoch. Through devils, giants, and dream visions, a magic silverfish of wisdom, a witch, and maple keys, the poet passes through life to a rebirth in the womb of a witch, to a new life, to a death that begins to look like life to come back to, find Providence is truly suburbia," close quote. And that's from an Amazon review in 2008. So please welcome Geoffrey Gatza.
Hooray and thank you. Awesome. Hooray and thank you for inviting me and BlazeVOX to your park. Ever since I was young, visiting Manhattan with family, I loved going to the library. The idea of being a poet and a book publisher blossomed right here in Bryant Park when I was a young chef. I was working furious hours for very little money, or often no money. I learned a great many things about life during that time. I also learned many things that have nothing to do with life. Items like frittatas or fish sauces that are not in vogue anymore. But when I wanted to find peace and quiet by losing myself in literature, I went to Bryant Park and the library. It was the only place in the whole city where I felt I could think clearly, rather than hiding in a book on a train, my closet that was listed as an apartment, or mingling in overly crowded coffee shops, which were very much in fashion in those days. When I left New York City to go back home to Buffalo 18 years ago, I had every intention of returning. As things worked out, Buffalo treated me all right. So this reading is a nice way to come back and show the land, the trees, and the old guys playing chess, the seeds that Bryant Park planted within me and grew. With that in mind, I'll begin my reading. This poem is entitled "Earnestly Being Important," or how I was kicked out of the Albright Knox Art Gallery for carrying an umbrella. It begins with a haiku. "It is unlucky to carry an umbrella in the museum. There's a taste in my mouth, and it's no taste at all." Part 1, an epistolary poem. Dear M, I'm writing to tell you about an unpleasant incident that happened at the Albright Knox last week, Thursday, about 3 p.m. It had threatened to rain that day, and for my walk over, I carried an umbrella. I had been enjoying my visit, and after an hour, in front of the art piece, the title escapes me just now, the skin tone portraits of the board of directors. While I was describing to friends how the color white is ambiguous, I was asked to leave the gallery by a security guard simply for carrying an umbrella. In disbelief, I left without incident. I felt hurt, embarrassed, and humiliated by this heavy-handed tactic, and I believe this might have been handled differently. I've been going to the Albright Knox all of my life, having always found the joys of inspiration within its walls. I'm afraid that this incident will forever tarnish that pleasure. I've dedicated my life to art, and to treat a fellow artist in this shabby a fashion is unworthy of your gallery. I am a poet and the executive at BlazeVOX, a small poetry press located in Buffalo. I say this as I was at the gallery to look at artwork from one of our authors, Michael Basinski, whose new book is currently in production. I mention these items as it locates me in a favorable way towards art and art galleries, and that I had a genuine reason to be in the gallery. I am not a hooligan, nor am I unkind towards rules that bar one from carrying outdoor items inside. I was never told when I entered and paid for my ticket, conversed with the front desk attendant, the gift shop staff about a bow tie, walked past several gallery employees and other less agile security guards that I might get thrown out of the establishment for carrying my umbrella. I saw no signs that said one would be removed from this premises for such an infraction. Furthermore, I do believe that instead of being ejected, one might have pointed to a place, like a coat rack, where one might be able to leave outdoor items. I'm sure that this is not too much to ask, as weather in Buffalo does tend to happen. And since there was no form of appeal to this unilateral decision, I was left to walk home with hurt feelings, which will manifest in my decisions when it comes to making future donations. In the end, I am left feeling rather wounded by all of this. I wanted to convey this to you and hope that you might be able to find a way to ensure better customer service for art patrons, especially ones who live so close to the gallery. We both know that customer service is the key to a successful enterprise, and why I'm taking to inform you of my unpleasant day. Thank you. Part 2. Oh God, I can do better than that. It begins with an epigraph from David Bowie's song, Queen Bitch. She's so swishy in her satin and tat, in her frock coat and bibbity-bobbity hat. Oh God, I could do better than that. My out-of-focus image is reflecting back to me in the glass of an open, empty vestibule. The self appears ghostly, a figure entering the building when in fact it is leaving. A mirror image of the old-fashioned irony acting oppositely. The reverse of what one expects to be doing at that moment. The person one thinks, imagines that they are, might be. That courageous mental avatar swimming in thought fluids of artistic possibilities and permutations that await them inside this beautiful gallery, enters. Instead, you are leaving, formally asked to leave by security for carrying an umbrella. It's all so surreal. So surreal it's outdated by at least 90 years. Finally, the artwork is no longer the agent provocateur against those who seek to secure our surroundings from ourselves. The poet again is an enemy expelled in a comedy of manners. I have always lived more boldly than I should given my resources. I am fonder of my life than anyone else I know. However, I sat on the steps of the gallery and looked out on the reflecting pond, contemplating the compartments of good governance and even-handed uses of power and how they are prized above the arts, above literature, above personal propriety, even a paying customer. How I long for basic customer services in the arts world. A swipe of normal consumerism where a patron is a customer and owns the buying power that a ticket should provide. An art gallery could contain a public space of observations on being, lived out demonstrations, the greater abilities, energies, and emotions of all humankind in one structure that was for and by the community, and on almost every other occasion, it is. Instantly, I'm 5 years old again and unimpressed by the Warhol soup cans. To me, it represented a poorly conceived lunch. And besides, I was a beef and barley kind of child, and the painting depicted tomato. This reminded me of my grandmother, but we never ate tomato soup together. This shadow memory, I feel an awful shame cloak over me. I remember being frightened by the evil walking flower sculpture, and to this day, I wish I could walk into the painting, The Marvelous Sauce. I remember sliding along infinity in short socks in the mirror room, hidden away yet in full view of all magnificence reflected outwards. Over and over and over the hollow chair and mirrored stick table sits suspended in the ice green, silver-tinged glass presence. A perpetual now encasing trapped, excited light in the netherworlds. Art that can surround one's being in totality and isolate, remove the surroundings of the lower-than-life everydayness in a box, segregated, side by side, with and within the pulsing emptiness hand that dangles the faraway laughter carrot of art. That shadow hiding within the object, setting this piece apart from the cotton candy carnival's amusement tent. This is the modern pleasure experience, the immersion in totality within the piece, set alone with others as a shared solitary experience, floating as a victim of deprivation to reach out towards the 1,000 images of your cubed reflection, reaching out for understanding of why we are here in this moment. I could see things I didn't want you to be able to see. What did you think when you saw my face? You can see my embarrassments over and over again. I want to change everything about the man you see in this cage. I hold my hands over my belly in hopes you will not notice how much my body has endured. You look no younger yourself. Your cragged body appears as I appear to you, damaged, gilded, crowned in failure. In the memory, the mind moves moments to suit the needs of the memory. At once I'm younger than I care to remember. The next it is 5 years ago, waiting to meet John Ashbery and hear him read his poems in the gallery's auditorium. At the pregame party, I spilled a glass of red wine down the front of my red shirt. I went outside to feel less awkward, less damp. In those solitary moments, I smelt the floral late summer air and felt happy about art and poetry. The artists and scholars and their endlessly searching questions of when will my time bite, Mr. Ashbery, as did your apple of success. Can you tell me when will art embrace me as I have cherished art throughout these ever-vacant years? In the outside, gold June bugs danced in the porch tin lamp. An opening, a wooden screen door screeching, broke the moment. To my horror, out came John and David on their way to prepare for the upcoming reading. I was daydreaming in a red wine stained shirt. I quickly blathered something wonderful to him about how great he was and how his art had moved me, my mind rather, to distant whatnots, and all the while he smiles with me. Graciously, he allowed that moment to occur. He waited patiently for me to wind down, then politely he moved on towards the gallery. To meet one's hero isn't always an odd moment. Not necessarily pleasant, but generally uncomfortable. You want to express in one pushing breath the wondrous things that happened in your brain which their work managed to generate. You do not immediately realize that you were alone when this happened. They were not with you on your journey through their poem, as the movie actor cannot see you watching them. You feel your emotions within you, as magic is immune to its magician. Uncontrollable moments surge, instantly, not always readily remembered in their exacting sequences, which causes one to stand stiff, a diffused statue, a naked ambition moth, opening to the flame that inspired it to fly into the sparks stirred up from broken kindles in fallen forests. These moments last for an infinite amount of time, like the line we stood in to meet Julie Meritu. She gave a lecture on her process and successes. She was so very cool, American, and aptly situated in the now of her charismatic creations, inspiring, occupying the space in a comfortable leather jacket. It was such a great moment. I wanted to keep her, bring her home, as one might keep a beloved cat. But unfortunately, artists cannot be collected as easily as their wall decor. And now we are publishing a book of poems by her cousin Timothy, who chose the painting excerpt Supremacist Evasion for the book cover. Radiating pinks jut from central points where a squiggle city once stood. Reds, yellows, and blues dot the evolution of circular trail patterns around a map-like canvas. It's all very exciting and gilds Timothy's poetry rather well. The rectilinear lines dart about the field, but all comes home to rest in the snowfields of murdered fathers at Elsinore. And then there was that time I was on acid. We walked the hallways as only young friends can. Together, our minds melted inwards towards the walls. We annoyed the docents by critiquing the plaster workmen, remodeling the first floor, in our finest art speak and newly learned analyses. We commented on the industrial nature of the new space, the unfinished walls with plaster dust encrusted circular saws, open to us, like the postmodern setting it was immersed. A snake-like line ran towards a red phone on the floor. There was a stepladder that led upwards to nowhere. This was all folly, a nothing at all, a random funny thought merging today's art through minds raised on classical depictions of bearded men glowering at frightened women, trying to break through, to be edgy and against the systems we so dearly enjoy so very much. The world was once so reductible, a closed system where art could demonstrate to the world the entirety of the known existence, even if it meant reality could be marred by the artist's talent. As a straight line in the sand cannot be a division in the sand, it is merely the mind recalling a similarity to a representation of a moved medium upon which the active brain can dream. Now things are everywhere, aren't they? The mind can directly be misdirected, even by a phone on the floor of an art gallery. Red can mean just about anything to anyone. Art evermore means nothing primarily substantial, as our lives frequently contain less and less truly meaningful moments, as pencil markings on a wall. These memories waver in my mind like those blue wooden poles that once stood on the far side of the gallery. They've been sent on now to another gallery, another space, another owner. But in their upright, reaching, weathered blue, I found determination standing vertiginously, as would bamboo in a longing, meditative stance, gleaming on and on in the cold evening, standing up to the snow showers with nothing but sky and starlight to cover them from mere mortal exposure, as if stating to those who drive by, dying here would be redundant. Thank you.